The Métis Nation of Ontario needs this act to be passed. Again, in 1993, we were, because of the way you have to recognize as a body to do business, we're under the Corporations Act of Ontario. The Ontario legislature has already passed what's called the Non-for-Profit Corporations Act, which will be transferring from the Corporations Act into the Non-Profit Corporations Act. That bill has already been passed. It hasn't been implemented yet, but it will be implemented in the very near future. And that bill would be very problematic to the Métis Nation of Ontario, to our unique governance structure. And some of the problems that arise out of the Non-Profit Corporations Act that would impact the Métis Nation of Ontario very negatively would be, for instance, we have a very sophisticated, well-run, well-managed electoral code for electing leadership throughout the Métis Nation of Ontario. We have an electoral code that's been reviewed and passed by assemblies. It's been established for years. And it's probably one of the most democratic processes in all of Ontario, whereby every citizen is entitled to vote, and our citizens can run for all the positions within the Métis Nation of Ontario, etc. Under the new Non-Profit Corporations Act, when it's implemented, that electoral process will no longer be able to be used. That act calls for elections to take place at annual assemblies. That act has no provisions that only Métis citizens could vote for Métis leaders. That act would not allow that only Métis citizens could run for elected positions. Basically, anyone in Ontario could run at an annual General Assembly for leadership within the Métis Nation and vote even for that position. So, hugely problematic to MNO's current governance structure. And that's just one example of the negative implications of the Ontario Not-for-Profit Corporations would have on the Métis Nation of Ontario when it's implemented. The act has already been passed, but when it's implemented. So our legislation that we've put forward, or well, not put forward, but certainly we've pointed out the problems associated with that with government. And government has drafted legislation. We review and we provide input as to the problems with the existing legislation. And the legislation that the Métis Nation Act, as it's tabled now, gets us through those problems. So basically our governance model, our charter system, our electoral code, our bylaws and that remain ours. And we can still adjust our bylaws, same as we always have been, through the established process. And so it really protects and respects our governance system.